Okay, so today we're diving into a story that honestly seems to defy all logic. Picture this. In a year that's all about strength and good fortune, what do you think was the hottest selling toy in China? You'd probably guess some kind of hero, right? Or a symbol of success? Nope. It was a small, plush horse with a giant frown. Seriously. This is the story of how sadness, of all things, became a massive bestseller. Right? So why would a toy with a frown become a New Year's bestseller? Let's really dig into this because this is the core mystery we're trying to figure out. You have to remember this is happening in a culture that really values optimism and celebration, especially around the new year. So why on earth did millions of people find themselves drawn to a toy that just looks miserable? Well, the answer tells us a ton about the pressures of modern life.
And here's the kicker. What makes this even crazier is that this wasn't some brilliant 4D chess marketing campaign. Not at all. It was a total accident. On a factory floor in Yiwu, which is this huge manufacturing hub in China, a worker just made a mistake. They accidentally sewed the toy horse's mouth upside down. And just like that, you have this permanent, tragic little frown. But instead of ending up in the reject pile, the sad little horse was about to become an absolute star.
So a simple mistake like that doesn't just become a viral sensation out of nowhere, right? For something to take off like this, it has to tap into something much, much deeper. And that's exactly what happened. This little toy became a symbol for a whole generation, feeling the weight of incredible social pressure. And that brings us right into what some people call China's pressure cooker society. And a huge piece of that pressure puzzle is something you might have heard of, the infamous 996 culture. And what that means is the expectation to work from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. 6 days a week. Just think about that for a second. It's this relentless, all-consuming grind that leaves almost no time for anything else. Not for friends, not for family, not even for just, sleeping. And that feeling that all this incredibly hard work isn't actually getting you anywhere, well, there's a word for that. It's called involution. It perfectly describes this state of hyper-competition where everybody is just working harder and harder, not to get ahead, but just to keep from falling behind. It's exactly like being on a treadmill that just keeps getting faster. You are absolutely exhausted, but you look around and you haven't moved an inch. So when you combine 996 and this feeling of involution, the psychological toll is, as you can imagine, just huge. We're talking widespread anxiety, constant stress, and this really deep sense of helplessness. You feel like you're doing everything you're supposed to do, playing by all the rules, but that reward you were promised just seems to get further and further away. And this is why that little crying horse hit such a nerve. A customer in Beijing, Xiaojuan, really put it perfectly. She said, "Now there is a lot of pain and a feeling of injustice. If you cannot cry out loud, this horse can cry for you." I mean, wow, that just says it all, doesn't it? So, when you really get down to it, this was never just about buying a cute, quirky toy. No way. The crying horse became an emotional outlet, a stand-in. It was a way for people to show feelings they felt they couldn't show. It was this small, quiet act of passive resistance against a culture that's constantly demanding positivity and just more and more effort. But, professional burnout? That's really only half the story here. Because all that pressure to work constantly has this huge ripple effect on people's personal lives. And that's leading to another powerful force that's driving this whole trend, a growing sense of isolation and what people are starting to call the loneliness economy. Just look at this number, 45. In 2024, the marriage rate in China hit a 45-year low. I mean, that is staggering. This isn't just a little dip on a graph. This is a massive societal shift. People are moving away from traditional family structures, and it's being driven by everything from economic pressure to just changing priorities. And of course, that has a direct impact on how people are actually living their day-to-day lives. With fewer people getting married and so many moving to big cities for work, you're seeing this dramatic rise in single-person households. Today, 1 out of every 6 homes in China is what's called a dujuhu, which literally translates to a household of 1. Now, this new reality of so many people living alone has created a whole new set of anxieties. And where there are new anxieties, well, a new market is born. And it's led to the creation of some products that sound, honestly, a little dystopian, like an app whose name literally translates to, "Did I die?" So how does an app called Did I Die actually work? Well, it's incredibly simple. And its simplicity is what makes it so powerful. All you have to do is press a green button every 48 hours to check in. That's it.
If you don't check in, the app automatically alerts your emergency contacts. It is a really stark solution to a very, very modern fear. What happens if something bad happens to me when I'm all alone and nobody even knows?
And the app's founder, Ian Liu, he was really clear about why he made it. He said, you might not have social activities and live alone in a closed space. You will feel a strong sense of loneliness and insecurity. He built it to directly address that profound feeling that comes from working all the time and living by yourself. Okay, so let's zoom out. What does a sad little horse and an anxiety app really tell us about where things are headed? Well, they're both signals of a fundamental change in what people are looking for. We're talking about a major shift in the very nature of consumer demand, one that could have huge implications for how businesses think and operate.
What we're really seeing is the market shifting right under our feet. You know, the old model, the old marketing playbook was all about selling dreams, selling success, selling this aspirational lifestyle. But that's just not connecting in the same way anymore. The new reality, it's about embracing vulnerability. It's about selling empathy. It's about meeting a real, raw need for comfort and reassurance. So what this all boils down to is that businesses are starting to wake up to the fact that providing emotional comfort isn't just a nice to have anymore. It's not a bonus feature. Feelings like loneliness and anxiety, they've become what economists call a rigid demand. That means they're seen as essential, as non-negotiable as food or a roof over your head for a huge part of the market. This isn't just some passing trend. It's a deep, fundamental change in how people think and what they need. And all of this leaves us with one last, pretty provocative question. That crying horse, it wasn't just a toy. It was a signal. It's telling us that when an entire society is feeling stressed out, overworked, and lonely, maybe the most valuable thing you can sell isn't a dream of a better future. Maybe it's just a simple, quiet acknowledgement of how tough the present is. And that really makes you wonder, when a society is this stressed, is empathy the next big business?
喜欢这种学习方式，欢迎订阅我的频道，让我们一起用下一个10分钟，把商业英文变简单。